Welcome back, house kids. Eric here. Today's Saturday, February 13th, and we have been going over the book of 1 Samuel. Now, if you recall, 1 Samuel, in the beginning of it, introduces Israel's first king. It was King Saul. We also learned that King Saul wasn't a great king. He was not obedient to God. He cared more about Saul and what Saul wanted than what God wanted. And so God told him, hey, you're not going to be king forever. I'm going to have someone else come and be king because you're not obedient to me. And then we found out last week who is eventually going to be that king, and it's David. Last week we learned that David was anointed to become the next king when he was a young boy. And then we learned how he ended up defeating Goliath as a young boy because he wasn't scared of Goliath. He didn't like that Goliath was making fun of his Lord. And after he defeated Goliath, he goes on then to just do very successful in all the things he does. You know, he'll end up going out and in battle, and he's successful. Everything he does, he's just very successful. And he ends up becoming best friends with Saul's son, Jonathan. They're like best buds. They're almost like brothers. They just hang out all the time. They do everything together. They just love each other. They're like best friends. All right? Now, this story is in 1 Samuel chapter 24. So if you want to end up reading this, it's all there in chapter 24. And what we learn in this chapter is, if we recall, God wanted David to be king because he loved David's heart. Remember, he said it's not about what's on the outside, it's about what's in here, what's in your heart. And we're going to find out in this lesson one of the things why God loves David and his heart so much. So, David, as we know, has become successful in all the things he does, and Saul, as king, doesn't like that. He's jealous. He's like, David's just, everyone loves David, and everything he does is amazing. And he starts getting really jealous because he knows that David is anointed to be king. And Saul doesn't want that. Saul's like, I want to be king. I don't want him being king. Why has he got to be king? And he gets so jealous that he ends up planning to kill David. And so when word gets to David, actually from Jonathan helps him escape. Saul's own son helps David escape. And so David takes off into a near land called Moab, and he hides out there with a bunch of men that follow him because a lot of people love David. And so Jonathan and all these men, and him are hiding out. And one day, after Saul was pushing back on some Philistines, he ends up going and hearing about where David is hiding, and he's like, all right, well, let's go get him and kill him. And so he gets 3,000 men, and they all take off to go find David where he's supposed to be hiding and kill him. Now, as they get close to where David and his men are, okay, David and his men are hiding because they know that he's coming, and they're hiding in this cave, and it's dark in there. And Saul ends up telling his guys, hold on a sec, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go in this cave real quick. So Saul goes into the cave to go to the bathroom. And when he's in there, all of David and his men are hiding in the back, and it's dark, so Saul can't see them. And David's men say, David, Saul's right there. This is your chance. God has delivered him to you. You could go kill him. And David goes up to Saul quietly, and Saul doesn't know he's there, but David does not kill him. David takes his sword and cuts a little piece of Saul's robe off, a little piece of fabric from his robe he was wearing. And then he goes back over to his men, and then Saul goes to walk out. And David starts, realizing, I shouldn't kill him. I shouldn't do bad things to him. God has still anointed him to be king at this moment, and it's not up to me to judge him and kill him. That's up to God. He put God first, not himself. And he had mercy over Saul. And all of his men were kind of confused. They wanted to go. Some of his men wanted to go kill Saul. And he was like, no, don't kill him. And then David comes out of the cave as Saul's walking out, And David calls out to Saul, says, Saul. And then as Saul turns around, David bows down and faces his head towards the ground as a sign of respect and says, Lord, my king, I had the opportunity to kill you. Even though you are the one doing the bad thing, trying to come kill me, I had an opportunity to in that cave, and I didn't. Here's a piece of your robe. I was right next to you and you didn't know it. And I will not kill you, even though you plan on killing me. Okay, that's up to God. It's not up to me. And Saul felt bad. He felt guilty. For the first time, he realized, I am a bad king. I am not good. And to have you sit here and have mercy over me, it really affected Saul. It made Saul cry. He started weeping, and he felt bad because he was so bad, and he had this opportunity to be killed, and David did something so nice and did not kill him. And so Saul says, you know what? You are going to be king one day. You're anointed to be, and I know you're going to be king, and you're going to be a good king. And I just ask, will you please promise that when you are king, you don't kill me and my family? And David promises him right there, I promise you, I will not kill you and your family. And at this point, Saul and his men head back, and David and his men kind of go back out into hiding. And that's his story in chapter 24. And we can see one of the reasons why God loves David so much, because David has a heart that has forgiveness in it. It has mercy in it. And that's one of the things that God has for us. He's like that too. He's like that too. We, because of our sin, shouldn't be with God at all, ever. But God didn't want it to be like that. He didn't want us to just die and never be with him. He wanted to make a way for us. And that's why he sent his son, Jesus Christ. Because God, just like David right there, has a heart with mercy on it because he loves us. And so this is a real cool story into David. We're going to learn a lot more about David. As good as David is and as good as his heart is, you'll find out that he still is human and he still messes up and he still does bad things. But he loves God, which is what's important. That's this story, 1 Samuel chapter 24, and it's David showing mercy to Saul, who hated David. All right, we got some printouts for you. If you look down in the description below, you'll see a link to a folder which has the video you can watch, the little cartoon video on this story, as well as a couple printouts here that you can print out. One is the coloring sheet of the week, and here it shows the cave, and you'll see there's David in a little piece of his robe there, Saul's robe, and he's like, hey, could have killed you, but I didn't. You can color that however you'd like. And then the activity sheet this week is called A Shred of Mercy. And this is a connect the dots little thing. So you got to go wherever number 1 is and connect 1, which is right here, to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and you just keep connecting the dots and it'll come up with a cool picture. So have fun doing that, you guys. I enjoyed teaching this lesson with you and everything. I hope you have a good week, and we'll get into next week's lesson next week. Take it easy. Bye.